Tennessee Titans training camp is here, and there are some big-time mysteries that need to be solved. Wake up, Titans fans. It's time for the Sleeper Titans podcast. What I want to do on today's show is talk about the big mysteries that still need to be solved during training camp, talk about the things that aren't mysteries, and we'll go over the important schedule dates for training camp as well. But the biggest mystery to me is, are the Tennessee Titans going to pay Peter Skoronski? We saw Jeffery Simmons get his big-time deal earlier this offseason. Absolutely deserved what the Titans should have done. But a deal that is also absolutely deserved is Peter Skoronski's extension. He's going into his fourth and final season, and typically when you have a player of his caliber, you get the deal done before the year, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want that player to reach free agency after an excellent year. And Peter Skoronski has gotten better every single year throughout of his career, getting to the point right now where he's one of the top 6, 7 at maximum guards in the NFL. I would argue that he's a top 5 guard in the NFL, which is exactly the level of player that the Titans hoped he would be when he was drafted. And out of all of the absolutely garbage first-round picks that the Tennessee Titans have had over the last 6 or 7 years, for a guy like Peter Skoronski to become the level of player that he is and actually pay off on the promise of a first-round draft pick, it would be absolutely insane for the Tennessee Titans not to get something done with Peter Skoronski. What could the deal look like? I think it's going to be anywhere from $22 to $25 million per year. And I think that Peter Skoronski is well worth it. That sounds like a lot, but the top guard in the NFL right now is Tyler Smith from the Dallas Cowboys, and he's making $24 million per year on average. The highest paid interior offensive lineman in the NFL is Tyler Linderbaum at $27 million per year on average. So I think it's only likely that Peter Skoronski comes in between 22 and 25. I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up being that 25 number. And, you know, I know people hear these numbers, they freak out a little bit, but one thing you have to remember, it's 3 words, and I get it from a buddy of mine at the Locked On Network, Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. He says, cap go up. And it's a simple but effective saying, cap go up. The NFL salary cap has risen tens of millions of dollars just in the past couple of years. So that's something that we do have to take into account. As $25 million per year sounds like a lot for a guard, but when you're the Titans and your offensive line is in flux, you can't afford to let that guy go. And also, again, when the cap goes up as significantly as it seems to do every year, a $25 million a year contract will feel like $18 million a year here in a little bit. One smart way to look at cap, because the cap goes up all the time, is by percentage. And the percentage of the salary cap that Peter Skoronski is going to take up. You know what I mean? That's the way to look at it once the deal hits. But I will tell you, I do believe that the deal gets done. I think that Peter Skoronski gets his deal before the season begins. It may be at the end of training camp. Maybe this coaching staff they just want a training camp with Peter Skoronski to make sure that Mike Borgonzi can press the button and go all in. It could be, soon as well, before the pads come on in training camp to protect Peter Skoronski. You'd have to think, could Pete maybe hold in a little bit before he gets that deal? I don't think that's something that he would do, but I wouldn't blame him if he did that. Either way, I do think that this deal gets done, and I think it gets done before the season actually begins. I think that's a very common time to see some of these extensions get done, but he absolutely deserves it. Now, the next big mystery that I would look at is Will Levis. What are the Titans going to do with Will Levis? Are they going to keep him as QB3? Are they going to cut him if there's no trade partner, or are they going to trade him? I don't believe that the Titans want to keep 3 quarterbacks. I know that Brian Daboll kept 3 quarterbacks last year with New York. I'm aware. All right. I know. But with the Titans' offensive line uncertainty, with the Titans' talent at wide receiver, with the Titans' infatuation and necessity of having depth on the defensive line, with needing special teams value at linebacker, at safety, at corner, I just think that there are much better ways to use that roster spot than a third quarterback. I just don't think that that's the smart way to do it, if I'm honest. And Will Levis doesn't have a future here of any kind. So what are you holding him for? He's going to be inactive on most game days, and you're just wasting a roster spot on a guy who's not even going to be on the active roster. You're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks active. You're simply not doing that. He would be the emergency quarterback. And it's like, there's just no point. He's leaving after the year. His contract is up. He's never coming back to Tennessee. He feels disrespected. He feels like they gave up on him, and they did. They did. I think they should have. You know what I mean? But if you're Will Levis, you're going to take that stuff personally, and why would the Titans bring him back? Like, it just none of it makes sense. And you could say, oh, if Cam Ward gets hurt, I'd rather have Will Levis out there than Mitch Trubisky. Me too. It would be more interesting to watch Will Levis but let's say Will Levis goes out there and plays good. He's still going to go somewhere else, and the Titans are going to sign free agents next year, and they're not going to get a comp pick. So there's just literally no benefit whatsoever to keeping Will Levis on this roster past the cut down day. Just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. The offensive line. Who's going to start? I talked about this on Locked On Titans recently, but I got to tell you, I think the starters right now will be the starters week 1. It's going to be Austin Schlottmann, Cordell Volson. But even though I feel confident in that, it is still a mystery that must be solved. Femi Oladejo. Is he healthy? Is he going to be ready to go? The report from, I think it was Paul Kaharski a couple of weeks ago, was that Femi had a hamstring issue that made him miss all season workouts, and he will be ready for training camp. He wasn't placed on PUP like J.C. Latham or Amani Hooker. So that would lead us to believe that Femi is good to go and going to start. But what's he going to be? Huge mystery. We know Keldrick Falk is a rookie. He's going to be inside, outside, pure defensive lineman. We know Jermaine Johnson is the number 1 edge, veteran player, going to be that wide 9 defensive end for the Titans. Remember when Gus Bradley told us that they want more of a pure edge in one spot, and then they want more of like a bulky inside-outside defensive end in the other spot? Well, Keldrick Falk, Jermaine Johnson. But where does Femi factor into that? I know a lot of you guys are just done with Femi. You hated the pick when it happened. You don't like it now. You don't think he's ever going to be anything. He's never going to do anything. He's never going to be valuable. He's never going to be worth the pick. I get if you feel that way. And as somebody who has defended Femi Oladejo, I cannot sit here and look at you or look into my camera and tell you that you're wrong for feeling discouraged or giving up hope. Like I can't tell you that you're wrong for doing that. It's fair to do that. But I'm not going to do that quite yet. Let's see what Femi has here in training camp and his new position for a 3rd straight year, new defense in a 3rd straight year. Let's see what he does in this new role. Okay, but it's a massive mystery what's going to happen with Femi Oladejo. And then I would tell you depth everywhere. Secondary, linebacker, tight end, running back, wide receiver, O-line, every single spot. We don't have a lot of certainties on what the depth is going to look like. So those are the things that I think are the biggest mysteries for the Titans. What do you guys think are the biggest mysteries for the Titans as training camp kicks off today? Remember, we're going to do training camp dates at the end of the show so that I can tell you what to expect, when are the pads coming on, what's going to happen there. But there are some things that aren't mysterious with the Titans going into training camp. There are some things that we can count on. All right, and number 1 on that list is Jeffery Simmons. Jeffery Simmons is the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. We can count on that. That's real. That's certain. That's not a mystery. We know who Jeffery Simmons is. It's more fun. I get it. I admit it. I understand. It's more fun to talk about the things we don't know yet. Is this player going to be great? Are they going to break out? Is who they're going to become? Who's going to fill these spots? I get it. It is, more interesting to talk about what we don't know. But the stuff we do know, like Jeffery Simmons, like Peter Skoronski, for example, being one of the top 5, 6 guards in the entire NFL. Those are things that the team can be built around, especially in the trenches. I think that in the backfield, Tony Pollard has been one of the most consistent, one of the most durable players in the NFL. I saw a stat from, I think it was Nick Suss. Nick Suss, cool dude. I like Nick Suss. Writes for the Tennessean. Met him at the Combine last year. Tall as all get out. I told him he's got to stop being so tall. But Nick Suss, good dude. Good dude covering the Titans. But he had a great stat. If Tony Pollard plays in 15 or more games this season, he'll only be the second running back since 2000 to play in 15 games or more in 8 straight seasons. The only other player to do it was my favorite running back of all time, LaDainian Tomlinson. Okay? Shout out LT. But that's impressive. And I understand. Tony Pollard is not explosive. He's not exciting. He's not elite. He's not electric. He's just a lunch pail, workman type running back who's always out there, always productive, always contributing. And that's valuable. That's valuable in this new run game scheme that Brian Daboll is going to go with. He pounds the rock. I've reminded people over and over again that go look at Brian Daboll's statistics as an offensive coordinator. He's had far more success running the ball than passing the ball. He's had top 10 rushing offenses almost half of his years as an offensive coordinator. So Tony Pollard's going to be absolutely critical to the Tennessee Titans, and not having to wonder what they're going to get out of Tony Pollard, I think that's important. Mitch Trubisky. You know exactly what you're getting from your backup quarterback. Mitch Trubisky is who Mitch Trubisky is. And that sort of consistency and reliability is exactly what the Titans want at backup quarterback. Add John Franklin Myers in there as well. We know who John Franklin Myers is. It's not going to be a mystery. Him and Jeffery Simmons together is what this team's chances are built all around. Those two dudes must be dominant together, or the Titans are not going to be a good team this year. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. John Franklin Myers, Jeffery Simmons, be good. Titans, great chance to be a good team. And we know that they are. We can count on that. I don't know what the Titans are going to be in the secondary. I don't know what the offense is going to look like, the O-line, the coaching staff. The Titans' interior defensive line is going to be great. I do know that. And Cedric Gray, can we for a second? Cedric Gray may be one of the most under-discussed players of the offseason for the Titans. Dude was top 5 in the NFL in tackles last year. Had a breakout season as a young player. And he's barely talked about. I get the new additions, the draft picks, the coaching change, the uncertainties, the mysteries, take all the air out of the room. But Cedric Gray can be counted on. We know who Cedric Gray is as a player. And when you take Cedric Gray and you pair him with maybe the best linebacker developer in the NFL or one of them, I'm sorry, but I think that means great things for the Tennessee Titans. And it's nice to know that your 2 interior defensive linemen and then your middle linebacker, you can count on them in the heart of your defense. I think that's very valuable to the Tennessee Titans. Now, what I want to do is go over the schedule with you guys. What should we expect date-wise, practices, all of that? So, today is Tuesday. Titans training camp officially begins, but the players are not going to be out on the field. They're going to check in, okay? And we're going to get a press conference at noon Central Time with Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh. So we're going to get their opening statement for Tennessee Titans training camp and the season at large. That's going to be very interesting. Can't wait to break that down. But then on Wednesday, July the 29th, the Titans' first practice. Robert Saleh is going to speak at 9:45 Central in the morning before practice. And then the Titans are going to practice for about an hour and a half. And then there will be some players that talk. Don't expect big highlights out of that practice. The NFL requires a 5-day acclimation period when you get to training camp. So day one, you arrive, you check in, you get weighed, you do a strength and conditioning test to make sure that you're fit to go out there and start practicing. And then the Titans should have 4 non-padded practices. They're going to practice on Wednesday. They're going to practice on Thursday. They're going to practice on Friday. And they're going to practice on Saturday. And then I believe, well, it's not that I believe, they'll break on Sunday. And then they're back at practice on Monday, which I think will be the first padded practice of the year. It may be the next day after that on Tuesday, but either way, one of those first 2 practices, Monday, August the 3rd, or Tuesday, August the 4th, that will be when the pads go on. I don't know if the first day that they arrive to training camp, when they do the strength and conditioning test and all that, does that count towards the acclimation period? I couldn't find a good answer from my NFL rules that I go through. I get the NFL, I'm part of the NFL's media distro or whatever, so get all that stuff, but I couldn't find a legitimate answer. But the Titans are going to practice Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday next week. And then they're going to have the Bud Adams Bowl on Friday, where they practice at Nissan Stadium on Friday. Then they're going to practice on Sunday, August the 9th, and then fly out to San Francisco for practice on Tuesday with the 49ers. They're going to practice on Tuesday with the 49ers, and then Thursday, August the 13th, 2 weeks from a couple of days from now, they're playing their first preseason game, folks, on Thursday Night Football. Pretty crazy, huh? Friday, press conference, break, but then the Titans are back to practice on Saturday. They're going to come back home Saturday, break Monday. Then Wednesday, joint practices, Wednesday, August 21st, joint practices with the Seattle Seahawks. That'll be a big one. That'll be a big one. And then Sunday, I'm wrong. Wednesday, they have a regular practice, August 19th. It's Friday, August the 21st, that they practice with the Seattle Seahawks. And then their game is on Sunday. It's going to be on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Then Monday the 24th, press conference from Saleh. Practice on Thursday with the Chicago Bears. Final preseason game, Saturday, August the 29th. And then boom. Cut down day on Sunday. And the season is here. Crazy. Crazy. But we made it, folks. We made it. Training camp has arrived. The mysteries, the position battles, the breakouts, all of that, it's here. And I'm going to have it all covered here on the Sleeper Titans podcast. So make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. Heck, we're almost here. 500 subscribers already. Started this channel in the dead of the summer, too. Shout out to you guys. Can't thank you enough. But that's going to do it for today's Sleeper Titans podcast. Again, I am your host, Tyler Rowland. And as I tell you every episode, tighten up.